Afghanistan has been blighted by conflict for much of the past 30 years. But sport is remarkably resilient. Football is the local passion, and it's helping people to recover some sense of normality and enjoyment of life. Ghazi, or Hero Stadium in Kabul, is the country's premier sporting venue. It was built in 1923 and has been the scene of many great matches. But under Taliban rule, while sport was frowned upon, it became a place of fear and dread, the setting for public executions. For almost 20 years under Soviet and then Taliban control, Afghanistan played no international football fixtures. It has been a slow process returning to the world game due to poor facilities and the still volatile security situation. Currently 184th in FIFA's world rankings, Afghanistan has to play its international fixtures abroad. Meanwhile, the country's most promising players tend to move overseas to try to develop club careers for themselves. It's not just within the men's game that football is changing in Afghanistan. Since the fall of the Taliban, the country has experienced huge social and political upheaval. Previously, women had been excluded from any form of education and were not permitted many other basic freedoms. Today, women are re-establishing themselves within society, and one of the most striking examples of this is in sport. Women's football has been in existence for just over 2 years in Afghanistan. For those girls who had no opportunity to play football before and who were not even allowed to watch the game, training doesn't just take place on the pitch, but also in the classroom. The national team has been taking part in neighbouring Pakistan's Women's Club Championship, but has yet to play a full international and has struggled to find a permanent venue at home.
Before, we used to play in the women's park in Kabul. The ground wasn't ideal. It was very dusty, and then they didn't let us play there anymore. We also weren't allowed to play at the Ghazi, the national stadium. And that's why we had to go over to Pakistan to play regular matches. In the future, though, I would like to become a coach. The first Afghan female coach, and I am working really hard to reach that goal.
One member of the Afghan women's team is now playing college soccer in the States, which may well be followed by a career as a professional footballer. Former national team great Sabah Walizadeh is the women's team coach, and although few of his team will ever earn a living from the game, money is not their primary motivation. For most, reality involves relying on family handouts and occasional grants to afford the kit they need in order to enjoy their newfound freedom.
It's a sad but true fact that Afghanistan is known around the world for the production of illegal drugs and also the atrocities of the Taliban. However, I think now is the time when football and the other sports that are played here can send the world a different message. We need to send out a positive image of our country, and sport can do just that. It can send a positive message out to the world, and hopefully we can start to make Afghanistan famous for other reasons, and not the violence and bloodshed that people think about when Afghanistan's mentioned. That's the power of football.
Despite the many positives that football can bring to Afghanistan and its image abroad, the reality of life at home is still tough. It remains a conservative country where some people still disapprove of women playing football or doing any sport. The women's national team has to practice at the International Security Assistance Force compound for the players' own safety because of the fear of kidnap or attack by the Taliban.
When we leave our house, the chances of getting back home are less than 100%. You may have heard in the media that the Taliban threaten girls not to go to school and not to exercise. So how do you think they would let us play football? Even our own families do not want us to go and play football. All our relatives as well. They didn't allow us to play football. And people say bad things about us, and they tell us not to play football, as it's not good. They were saying these girls are worthless. No one should marry these girls. We have a lot of these things to deal with. But still, we try our best. We just want to achieve all that we can. We're just trying to lead normal lives. Doing what we want to do. Why shouldn't we?
Much more of that courage will be needed if the women's and men's games are to flourish in Afghanistan. For now, though, football's most important role may be in helping to rebuild a fractured society. Constructing a match-winning national team can wait.